Welcome into CHGO White Sox podcast post-game show, coming to you live from Studio A of our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, the full CHGO White Sox crew. That's Vinnie Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer. You can follow him at Vinnie Duber and read his work at allchgo.com. The man in the middle is Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
You can follow him at Ectorwall23. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. We'll be jumping into Vinnie's White Sox weekly newsletter for our diehards over at allchgo.com after he had a very bad day going over 4 at the plate.
I didn't. No, Andrew Benintendi did.
Yeah, you had a fine day. Yeah, I think you had a pretty good day too.
I'd like to think that my day has been wonderful.
You're very vocal in the meeting earlier today. I give an A+ to Vinny. Yeah, you brought it. We'll bring it to you on the podcast today as well. We'll talk about Benny's bad game. We will talk about Paul DeJong and a possible trade there for the White Sox leader in home runs. There's been some roster moves for the major league team and also some minor league roster moves that we'll get into. And Pedro Grifol had an interesting quote on Dominic Fletcher that we'll talk about, along with a little game that I'm throwing out there. Since it's Victoria Day, happy Victoria Day. White Sox lose 9-3 in Canada. Canada gets to celebrate their independence and domination over the White Sox.
Oh, their independence from the White Sox? Because not independence. We did a lot of research during the game on what Victoria Day is.
You did?
Yeah.
You said we.
Yeah,
well, clarify.
It was a conversation. Yeah.
I don't remember this. What did you figure out?
Well, I was ready for the question, what is Victoria Day? And I looked it up.
Okay.
It's the day when multiple, I believe it was 3 at the time, British colonies in Canada were joined together into one country to become Canada. And then obviously there was much more added to Canada later on, but this was the thing. That's what Canada Day is, July 1st. Victoria Day is celebrating the Queen of England, who was in charge when that happened. So here's my corollary to United States history for all our American viewers, okay?
Okay.
So we celebrate 4th of July, which was the day that all the 13 colonies joined together to declare independence from England, right?
Sounds right.
Imagine if instead of declaring independence, they were just like, we love you, England, and we want to continue to be a part of you. And then we also celebrated King George's birthday.
That's too much.
A weird-ass country.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
I think. Any Canadians out there want to clean up what I said, so you let me know.
This is about them becoming less of a territory in the Canadian territory and more being the country.
They were joined together. They're not all dispersed. They're just one big Canada.
Ontario and Halifax and Nova Scotia.
Well, Halifax is a city, but yeah.
New
Brunswick.
Did they know? So when this happened in 1845, did they make it out west yet to Vancouver? Did we know about Vancouver yet?
I mean, I'm sure they had made it out there. Okay. They knew there was an ocean, right?
Yeah, I guess.
So yeah, I think they were out there, but they maybe weren't ready to make that part of the country yet.
There was natives there, but just
there were people there, absolutely. All
right. Anyways, Sox lose 9-3 in Toronto. Erick Fedde had his first loss as a Chicago White Sox. We'll also talk about Brad Keller getting DFA'd. We have as well Dominic Leone returning and getting established.
He was activated from the injured list. Yes.
Reinstated is the word I was looking for.
Yeah, there you go.
Off the IL list. But let's start with Benny's bad game, because not only was this just a bad game all around for everyone, except for Paul DeJong.
Nicky Lopez had 3 hits.
Nicky Lopez had 3 hits. There you go.
Hell yeah.
Sarah's favorite player, produced today by Sarah. You're getting a hell yeah on Nicky Lopez. What was the biggest thing you took away from Benny's chat that you had on White Sox Weekly up at ALLCITY?
Well, I think the main thing, from my perspective at least, this is a guy who we've had, kind of not gleefully, but just matter-of-factly admit to us reporters how boring he is and how, he's not necessarily the most verbose interview. Good, friendly guy, but not necessarily the most descriptive. Some of the answers he gave me were probably the longest ones that I've ever heard from him since he's joined the White Sox, and maybe kind of reveals a little bit of how this is weighing on his mind a bit. He definitely goes out, in the story, he kind of alludes to the fact that this is not good and he doesn't like it, but he has it on his mind kind of thing. It's obviously something he's not trying to do, but it's a pretty stark difference between last year when he could be, frustrated, the same amount of frustration, but that he wasn't healthy, that he wasn't able to do what he knows that he's capable of doing. Now he's physically able to do it. He's just not doing it. And he's a veteran. He's been through slumps before. He's been through hot streaks before, whether you go all the way back to his time in Boston or, the year he made the All-Star team, Sean, in Kansas City, or even just last year when obviously things did not go well for him there. I think he is probably frustrated that he is not delivering the player that he knows himself to be. And, you keep hearing Pedro Grifol and many of his teammates say, yeah, he's look how long he's done this for. Of course it's going to come around. He's going to be that guy that we've seen over and over and over again in a Red Sox uniform, in a Royals uniform. In a White Sox uniform, it has not shown up yet, and certainly fans, for that reason, have are plenty. It's a perfect excuse to be skeptical because you've seen nothing but him fail to be that kind of player. You would think that he would be able to make some positive contributions from what we know the skill set to be, what we know why he was acquired. He was not acquired to go out and hit home runs. He was acquired to get on base and steal bases and make those fundamental plays and that kind of thing. We haven't really seen any of that either. And again, you would like to think that is a little easier to do, take a walk and steal a base, or bunt a guy over and make positive contributions even if the hits aren't falling. But really nothing is happening for Benintendi right now. And, another exhibit into that entry is what happened today in Toronto.
There's multiple plays, and, the plate was terrible. He was just bad at the plate. Hit into a double play his first at bat and just really didn't do anything with the bat. Had a productive out. He had a productive out where he advanced the runner at second to third. I think that runner eventually came in. So, one productive out. But in the field, we're watching, I think it was the second inning, right, Vinny, or third inning.
The fly ball down the left field line,
it's literally up in the sky for like 4 or 5 seconds, and it drops right in front of him while he's sliding. A double for Bo Bichette. And then I think in the third inning, you get a Kevin Kiermaier double to start off. It's hit the center. He hustle doubles. And then there's a ball hit to Benintendi, medium left field. And Kevin Kiermaier's like, I don't care. He goes from second to third and tags up on him easily. And then in the sixth inning, the same thing happens. I think Justin Turner, a little bit more to left center field, so he probably wasn't going to get it. But also, how about the wherewithal to know that Tommy Pham, a right-handed thrower in center field, who has more of a right fielder's arm than Andrew Benintendi, who's going away from the play, can take that ball, who are both there, instead of him taking the ball and not throwing the ball to third at all. He threw the ball to second. So it wasn't even a chance to get the guy out at third. So it was just like dumb.
And at least in the situation you're talking about, spread the blame around too, because Tommy Pham's a center fielder.
Oh, he's got to call him off.
He can call him off there. He's supposed to be able to take charge of that play.
He's supposed to, but all these things are adding up. You can have a bad game at the plate, but to continue it out in the field, it's like, what do you do here? And I don't know what the WAR is right now, but last time I looked up, he's one of the worst, if not the worst, position player in Major League Baseball. That can't continue. He just needs to contribute somehow. Like, hey, I am not going to be good at hitting this year. I'm bad. And so I'm going to dedicate everything to fielding. I'm not going to be good at fielding, so I'm going to dedicate to hitting. Pick one, because both are bad right now. It's bad.
One thing we did hear from Pedro Grifol during the last homestand was that they did make some changes after we saw a lot early on in the season, Benintendi not being able to get to some fly balls. It seems like they are playing him closer in, toward the infield. But that play today would have been a tough one. Certainly it was a long run, but when you add up everything else that came before it for him defensively this season, it looks like the next in a line.
To be fair, on Saturday, he had a pretty nifty diving catch.
Great catch.
Also on Thursday, he ended the game on a diving catch, right?
Recently, yeah.
Thursday or
that,
Wednesday.
Yeah.
One of those games ended with a diving catch. So to your point, Herb, hey, maybe let's not bash the guy too much. But I do have this. You guys heard of Fangraphs?
I have.
Okay. There's this stat called WAR. You guys heard of WAR?
What is it good for?
Not much. But
I believe the line I was looking for was absolutely nothing.
But Fangraphs is telling me over the past 2 seasons that there are 3 people with a negative 1.7 WAR or worse that are qualified. There are also, funnily enough, 6 players who have negative WAR who are qualified. We'll have a guessing game first. But who are the 3 worst players in Major League Baseball since 2023?
So this is the span of the last 2 seasons.
Yes, all 3 of these
combined.
players. All 3 of these players have a negative 1.7 WAR.
I would imagine Andrew Benintendi's one of them.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Jose Abreu.
Correct.
Ooh.
Can we finish it out?
Tim Anderson.
No, but he's 5th.
Okay.
He's negative 0.6.
Yasmani Grandal.
No.
Martin Maldonado.
No. There's Andrew Vaughn's on this list. So of the 6 players that are negative WAR that qualify, Vaughn, Anderson, Benintendi, and Abreu are 4 of the 6.
Wow.
Not all White Sox because
To be fair, Abreu wasn't on the White Sox in over the last 2 years.
And then you have Joey Meneses and Keibert Ruiz. So Keibert Ruiz.
Oh, we just saw both those guys.
Nationals.
Yeah. So Keibert Ruiz is as bad as Jose Abreu and Andrew Benintendi. And you brought up something that I laughed, and it made me giggle so much. You said, there's no reason to let this continue. There's 49 million reasons to let this continue.
It's a sunk cost.
He was just...
You're going to pay it anyways. Might as
Are
well.
you paying it?
I'm not.
You got $49 million to give out?
It's a sunk cost. Like, not you, but is Jerry Reinsdorf, Chris Getz really expecting you getting their money's worth in the last 3 years of this deal? If they do, cool. But also, we've seen the movie. He was hurt all last year. Now he's healthy-ish, but it's not changing. Like, either I know that he is a veteran, cannot be sent down without his own permission, but there has to be some correction. There can't just be, hey, send him back out there. He'll find his way out of this slump. It's been 2 years. Where's he going to find his way out of this slump?
Well, first of all, it's been a year and a month, 2 months. So I mean, like, at least before there would be any serious conversation about taking him off the roster with that much money left on it, you got to let him complete this season. You know what I mean? We haven't even gotten to the 33% mark of this year. And I get what you're saying because, as I said earlier, you have every reason in the world not to think that it's going to turn around because all you've seen him in a White Sox uniform has been this, right? But from a realistic standpoint, that conversation would have to happen after another full year of disappointment, not just the first 2 months of year 2.
I mean, they're not even benching Benintendi for Aloy. It's not like they're benching Benintendi and putting Aloy in left field. They're benching Benintendi and putting him in right field. And I'm just bringing that up just because that's an easier position to play. Like, left field seems to be his. It doesn't seem like they want to get Aloy. If they are putting him out in the field, they don't want to have him get acclimated to a position that he's likely not going to play because Benintendi's there. He was just called the pillar today by Pedro Grifol.
He's under contract for 3.5 more years. More than 3.5. 3 2/3 more years. Yeah, he's not going anywhere.
I would say if I'm Chris Getz, and it's a tough pill to swallow, but they don't really spend any other money anywhere else. Say, wasn't my mistake, Jerry. That's my predecessor's mistake. And I get it. That's a lot of money, Jerry, and it's tough to swallow money. But do I get to get one? Brick had a couple of them. Do I get to get a couple where we swallow some salary? Because it's really hard to go through this and watch this player do what he does. And I'm sure he's a great guy, and I'm sure that eventually somewhere he'll do well. But it's not happening here, and it's too much of badness from him particularly where this team's not going. And you have people like Corey Jolks sitting on the bench that could be playing. And it's not like Corey Jolks going to set the world on fire, but I feel like he's going to give better effort, better stats than this guy would.
This is where I need to take a break because I don't know if I could talk about Corey Jolks being better than Andrew Benintendi.
You can't.
You got it right.
I've been staring in the mirror and saying it over to myself over and over again. But like, Corey Jolks is 27, Benintendi's 29. I mean, like, we heard from Joe Colley that They thought the Pedro season last year was fireable, but they didn't want to eat the money, and that money's like $3 million. So they're going to eat $49 million to let this guy not play for him.
Herb, the ones you're referencing are a guy like Dallas Keuchel, for example, and that was the last year of that contract. Like, there's 3 years after this year for Benintendi. But they have invested so much money and time into this player. He's not going anywhere.
But I would feel much better as a fan and as a consumer. Like, I would think the team would feel better. It's like, you know what? It's just money, and I know that it's not my money, so saying it is ludicrous. But once you see something is wrong, why go a couple more years until, okay, this thing was wrong, so we're going to waste 2 more years after this just because we got to pay him. That money is not going to be paid for by him playing well. Like, he's not going to do well. Like, we've seen the Andrew Benintendi movie. It's bad. Cut your losses while you can.
Yeah, I mean, Adam Dunn finished out his White Sox career with the team. I mean, he played through those 4 years.
And he was horrendous.
He was horrendous. Benintendi's just as worse. I mean, they used Adam Dunn as a pitcher in the later part of his contract. I mean, maybe that's Benintendi's next moonlighting. All right, let's take a break, and we'll let you know about some of our great sponsors. I hear Minidar. I hear her bringing up Jolks, but Jolks, Robert, and Pham will not be the outfield. I mean, they're not going to pay Benny.
It will be sporadically. I mean, we have seen, as you mentioned, Sean, we have seen Benintendi sat down more than he would be if he was playing well. You know what I mean? I think they are willing to, put some other guys out there on an occasional basis. But in terms of anybody else supplanting him as the left fielder, I don't see it.
He's played 43 of the 48 games, right? They've played 14 and 34. Yeah. So, I mean, he's got a healthy amount of playing time. All right, let's take a break, and we'll let you know about some of our great sponsors. We want to let you know about our friends over at Lucy. It is made for your nicotine routine and delivered straight to your door. You can save yourself the weekly gas station stop and sign up for a monthly subscription with our friends Lucy Nicotine. You can save 15% off, and there's no commitment. You can cancel at any time. You could choose your strength, 2 milligrams if you are using nicotine infrequently or just starting, up to 12 milligrams if you are underwhelmed by the effects of other nicotine pouches. And they also have a lot of ways to take in nicotine, whether it be the pouches, breakers, or gum. The Lucy breakers are the product that sets them apart. They're pouches with a tiny capsule inside. The capsule contains a liquid flavor that saturates the pouch before it's even in use, and you can break it with your teeth, get it situated, and boom, steak dinner. Instant nicotine release when you need it. So go check out our friends and level up your nicotine routine with Lucy. Go to Lucy, LUCY.co/CHGO Sox. That is promo code CHGO SOX to get 20% off your first order over at Lucy.co. Lucy offers free shipping and has a 30-day refund policy if you change your mind. That's Lucy, LUCO.co, and use code CHGO Sox to get 20% off and always free shipping. Lucy products are only for adults of legal age, and every order is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. We are the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling 1,000 other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player strat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Baseball season is underway. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond on your Prize Pick entries. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, first inning runs, take your pick, more or less than, and add them to your Prize Pick entry today. I don't know if I asked you, did Erick Fedde go less than? Wow, he only had 2 strikeouts, and when your other person is for
Ryan Weathers.
Ryan Weathers, so he gets to pitch a little later on in the afternoon.
At
see if
some point
Sean gets to win his money. It was a smart pick. If you were tailing Sean, maybe you'll win some money. But get in on the playoff action and win up to 100 times your money with Prize Picks as the world's best players take on a new level of basketball's postseason. Io versus Trae Young, of course, is my usual pick, but both of those guys have been eliminated from the playoffs and or play-in. So you on Prize Picks can pick from the Minnesota Timberwolves players who are going to be having a series versus the Dallas Mavericks this week. And you see I already removed their game schedule for the baseball game, the Twins versus the Rangers this weekend. So one of those people, I would go with Anthony Edwards, whatever points, rebounds, and assists they put up on Prize Picks, because that man has been doing some chief-ass things in this playoffs. Go to prizepicks.com/CHGO and use the code CHGO for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/CHGO. Use the code CHGO. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
Thank you, Herb. Vinny, I do have one more final question on the Benintendi stuff, and then we'll move on. There was the quote from Pedro in here, and it ends with saying, once he's had 120 at-bats, we'll see. My money is on Benintendi. Is this from a couple weeks ago, this quote specifically?
It's from last week, because he's over that now.
He's well over that. He's had 159 at-bats.
Maybe he said more,
like
120 more at-bats.
Yeah,
or that was the intimation, perhaps.
This is even without him going 0-4 today. 195, 223, 283.
Yeah, it's not good. Not good.
That's what the kids call on
OPS below 500, right?
223 on base percentage. OPS is 506. But now I think it's under with today's.
Right, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I didn't have the.
Well, and I pointed that out in the story too. I mean, remember even last year. Last year he's playing with an injured wrist all year long, and he still leads the team in on base percentage. Not that it was overly impressive. It was 326, I think. But like, at least he was doing that. Now that on base percentage is 100 points lower. Right.
Yep, and I mean he's just not walking. 6 walks this year. It's a 32 strikeouts, brutal. And you're right, 494 OPS. So that's just horrendous. Herb used to work at the Score.
I did.
What? All right.
Thanks, TR, whoever that is.
Let's move on. Let's go to our
Roosevelt.
That's Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah, currently dead.
No. Him and Victoria are hanging out. All right. Let's go to the guy who did have a nice day offensively for the White Sox, Paul DeJong. There was chat in our diehard Discord about a possible Paul DeJong trade. Is Paul DeJong making himself a viable trade piece for the White Sox? We know Tommy Pham likely might be. Maybe they'll trade Crochet or Robert, but Paul DeJong throwing his name in the hat?
Why not? And I mean, I think after the White Sox traded Robbie Grossman for a Double-A reliever, I think it really goes to show that anybody can go, and as long as anything comes back, right? And Herb, you sometimes maybe turn your nose up at a quote unquote lottery ticket prospect, a guy who's real young, real down there. If they can get it for Paul DeJong, for one season of Paul DeJong, why not, right? I mean, like the idea that anybody on this team who's not going to be here past the end of this year can go makes total sense to me. Now, DeJong is hitting well lately. I mean, this is a guy, Tommy Pham and Erick Fedde and others have been discussed as top trade candidates because they're playing very well. You would maybe expect them to get something a little bit more substantial for that. Paul DeJong could hit his way into that category, especially if he keeps showing the power like he has been lately. 7 home runs leads the White Sox. It wouldn't lead several other teams, but it's something, right? And so if any team is looking for anything as high as we want a starting shortstop for a pennant run kind of thing, to we just want a guy who can come off the bench and maybe provide some pop, you can get something for that. And, people joke, they're going to get a bag of balls for player X, a bag of balls for player Y. The actual real version of a bag of balls, like a prospect that isn't of much note, is still of value in the long term to this White Sox team, more so than a lot of the guys that they have on the major league roster right now. So I don't think anything is out of the realm of possibility in terms of them dealing guys. Paul DeJong's on a 1-year contract. He could absolutely be one of the guys that leaves here before the end of July.
It's the weird thing about it. I just looked up his stats. He has reverse splits. He does not hit lefties well at all in his career or this year. So, yes, he can get traded, but I would be thinking that people will be trading him for the bat off the bench to attack lefties. But that's not the thing that he does in his career. And so, yeah, he gloves it all right. I think he's made 7 errors this year already. But he's much better than the guy we had last year, and he's a plus WAR player. So if somebody's looking for that type of veteran leadership, I'm sure the Cardinals are probably sniffing around. It's like, hey, bring them on back.
They're not in a playoff hunt.
I know they're not, but they always love an old Cardinal. They always tip the cap a little bit. But I'm sure somebody will love to have Paul DeJong on their bench instead of some youngster, a guy who can probably play some defense in multiple positions and can provide some power.
Yeah, dude has a below average arm. His range is pretty average. So, I mean, maybe he could be a second fielder with some pop. I just don't think this is a guy that I would consider for a trade, just because I don't think a team is going to end up giving prospects away.
A team gave a prospect away for Robbie Grossman.
Like shortstop.
If he gets on base.
A shortstop gets hurt late in the season.
I'm going to replace him with Paul DeJong, though?
Hey, man. it's better than you calling up your double-A guy that's not ready. You can at least have Paul DeJong for the rest of the year, and he'll give you serviceable, above-average major league shortstop play.
And here's the thing, Sean. The time will tell, right? If Paul DeJong if this ends up being the best that Paul DeJong plays and he doesn't do anything, then yeah, they won't get any interest in him. But if he just remains this, if he has, 15 home runs by the time the All-Star or by the time the trade deadline rolls around, someone will take him for something.
Maybe. I mean, I think that it's a thing that, like, I don't know. A team would have to be fairly desperate, and also like maybe they don't want to give up anything up, and the White Sox reach August and they're just done with Paul DeJong. Like, isn't that a possibility? Like, even if he has 15 homers, they're just like, all right, Paul, you've helped us fill out April, May, June, July. We'll put you on waivers, and you'll be able to go play for whatever team you want.
But I think that's mostly dictated on how and when Colson Montgomery is ready, because they're not just going to bring him up just because Paul's off the team. When Colson says he's ready, I think that will be the end of Paul DeJong's everyday playing time. I don't even know if he's going to get traded at that point. But, yes, I could see the scenario you put out there. But I don't think it's Paul DeJong's gone, then we bring up Colson Montgomery. I think it's Colson Montgomery's ready. Sorry, Paul DeJong, it's your playing time here. The White Sox is gone. So if we don't find a trade partner, yeah, you're gone.
And we appreciate White Sox time hitting the like, because now we have the same amount of likes as White Sox have wins.
One shy.
Make sure you hit that like button so we could surpass the White Sox win total. We have over 50 people watching, but not a lot of people hitting those thumbs up buttons. So make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button. And to TR's question, would the White Sox trade Gavin Sheets? You could just put X there. I think the only Y person is Luis Robert Jr., and we can discuss on what Robert's value is. But I mean, they trade everybody.
They would trade anyone on this team. That answers that question. Of course, there is context to go into all of that.
Right.
But yeah, they are going to be open to trading absolutely anybody who is currently on the big league roster, maybe with the exception of Brian Ramos.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, we guys, Ramos isn't technically
Corey Lee, maybe.
Yeah.
I
mean, Corey would be pretty shocking for them to deal.
But again, it would also, if someone comes knocking and says we're going to give you a ton for Corey Lee, why not take that too?
I know it's not the same regime, but they traded Jake Berger. And he was showing promise too.
I guess. I mean,
they were accomplishing different. They were trying to accomplish different goals. I think.
Yeah. The Berger thing doesn't bother me. I mean, we even talked about it.
I'm saying today, it's a young player. It's just a young player that's showing promise. That would be the Brian Ramos comp.
Yohan Moncada there. I mean, there was a reason why they moved him, was because Moncada was making $75 million and they had to play him at third base. Like, there's no Moncada at catcher. Some people might throw out Martin Maldonado, but not Moncada enough, right? Like, there's no one truly pushing Corey Lee out, because even
currently.
But even then, when Caro comes up, Caro's mostly pushing out the second catcher. He's pushing out Stassi or Maldonado. I mean, Corey Lee.
Caro's not going to come up this year, I don't think.
Right, no, but still, I mean, like Corey Lee, especially with the amount of control he has, I don't know how many. He's still in pre-arb. I think he's at least got.
Cool, Corey Lee?
Corey Lee? This is rookie year.
Yeah, it's rookie year.
It's still his rookie year?
He only played, 15 games last year?
Yeah, he didn't qualify for the 2 years that he played.
They still got 6 years control?
Yes.
I believe so.
Oh, yeah, I mean, he's going to be a White Sox for at least the next 6 years.
Certainly, if he keeps playing well.
I mean, that seems like especially if he keeps playing well, and then you have Edgar Caro, who hits from both sides. Like, it's a pretty fun catcher combo. So, yeah, I would say probably Corey Lee and Brian Ramos are fairly untouchable, or are untouchable.
I was just picking guys who currently are on that major league roster. Yeah,
that's fair. All right, we'll take a break. We'll let you know about some of our great partners, and we'll talk about some of the roster moves and how the White Sox roster is changing. I want to let you know, though, about our friends over at Ray CDJR. This May, our #1 draft pick for all things Chryslers, Dodge, Jeeps, and Rams has got to be Ray CDJR in Fox Lake, and right now it's the season of savings, which means not only is May the time to find your next vehicle, you can score huge savings too. For a limited time, lease the new 2024 Ram 1500 Big Horn Crew Cab for only $419 a month, or shop over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. Let the team at Ray CDJR help you land the perfect vehicle at the perfect price, because of Ray's price promise. The number you're hearing now are the same prices you can expect to shop in-store and online. That's because Ray's price promise means no price changes, no add-ons, and no hidden fees. And since they prioritize affordability for their customers. Hurry into Ray CDJR today and shop one of the Chicagoland's largest inventories and drive home with more money in your pocket than you'd expect. If you are in the new market for a new vehicle, then you have to check out the team over at Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram, because they're the only team we recommend. Visit them today on Route 12 in Fox Lake. For more information, visit Ray CDJR in Fox Lake or raycdjr.com, serving the community since 1963. And we also want to let you know about our friends over at Ray. Or no, just told you about Ray. We want to let you know about our friends over at CD1 Price Cleaners. CD1 Price Cleaners, it's in the name. They charge one low price for any garment that you bring to them. Other cleaners may charge a different price for every garment type. Plus, they have upcharges, and you may pay a different price each time you visit. At CD1 Price Cleaners, that is not the case. They charge one low price for any garment, even sports jerseys, even, I think, blankets and comforters. Those might be a different price, but the same low price for all the garments that you have. CD1 Price Cleaners has your order ready the same day or next day. Other cleaners take 2 to 4 days to have your clean garments ready, and you might not even get a call or text when those garments are ready from the other cleaners. CD1 Price Cleaners sends you a text when your order is ready. Customers save over 30% on their dry cleaning bill by switching to CD1 Price Cleaners, so go check out some of the coupon options that they have available for you. Visit chgo.cdone.com. The link is also in the description, and once you're there, you can pick up from an in-store coupon or online pickup and delivery coupon options. Go check out our friends over at CD1 Price Cleaners.
Story time real quick. Sarah, if you want to throw AJ's comment on the screen there, he says, Corey Lee got me ready to DIY my Carlos Lee jersey. When I was in, I guess, my freshman year of high school, there was a friend of mine who wanted to get into baseball. He was a big Green Bay Packer fan. He wanted to get into baseball, and so because he was a Packer fan, he picked the Brewers as his team. We went up to a game in Milwaukee in 2004. It would have been, and he loaded up. He got himself a nice souvenir. He got himself a Scotty Pods jersey from the Brew Crew. That's when he was making all-star teams by stealing 60 bases and all that stuff. Later that year, after the 2004 season, Kenny Williams makes the trade, sends Carlos Lee to the Brewers. Scotty Pods comes back to the White Sox. And the next day, he shows up to school wearing his Scotty Pods jersey, or his jersey, and he had taken a piece of duct tape over Podsednik and written in marker El Caballo on the back of it. So there you go. It wouldn't be the first time that Carlos Lee would be involved in a homemade jersey swap.
It'd be tough because I don't know if you guys tried to do this when you were younger, but like change a 90 on a test to like a 100 or whatever, or an 80.
To lie to your parents?
Right, okay. I guess. Is there a way to turn a 2.6 into a 4.5 or the other way around, a 4.5 into a 2.6?
No, you'd need to know stitching. You'd need to be really good at tailoring.
Or just a lot of duct tape.
Or a lot of duct tape.
Right. Yeah. AJ, send in a picture if you're able to get that Corey Lee DIY jersey ready.
As I said before, that trade, if it was made today with all the analytics that we run through, would have been a panned trade because Carlos Lee was much more valuable than Scotty Podsednik and Luis Vizcaino.
He also just continued to be really good.
God, Carlos.
When he went to Milwaukee, when he went to Texas, when he went to Houston, Carlos Lee was awesome.
Yeah, he was. Apparently not a clubhouse guy. A guy who was to grab the sheet and was like, hey, man, I did my job. What the rest of y'all do?
I guess. I mean, I don't know. We're digging up that trade. I mean, we didn't plan on this.
I've looked it up before. Carlos Lee is much better than Scott Podsednik and Luis Vizcaino at the time.
So Vizcaino and Podsednik contributed 1.7 and 0.9 WAR to the 2005 team. They also won a World Series, so I don't know. We're rehashing this. Carlos Lee put up 1 WAR. So you're wrong.
That year.
No, I said the trade. The trade. If you made the trade and you look back at it like we do in the lens of this time right now, they would have said that's a bad trade by the White Sox.
Yeah, but I'm saying like it played, obviously, again, they won the World Series. It played out right, but Vizcaino put up 0.9 WAR, which is almost the same as Lee. And then Podsednik had 1.7 WAR by himself.
I'm not arguing the aftermath. I'm arguing the trade.
So you're saying initial reation, people would have been annoyed?
Yeah, that's
okay, gotcha.
that's how I judge every trade. I don't judge the results of the trade. I judge what happened at the trade, because after the trade, everybody can see what the results were.
They had a lot of bombers. They had a lot of bombers, though. I mean, like you had Jermaine, you had Paul Konerko, you had Frank Thomas,
but they didn't have Jermaine at that time.
When they made the trade,
they did not. I don't think. I think it was before the Jermaine acquisition. Jermaine came over in 2005, just like AJ did.
We can do this during an off-season day.
That's fine.
What was the Scott Podsednik Carlos Lee trade the right move? I'll try to figure out who was signed first.
Spoiler alert, it was.
Spoiler alert, it was the best day of my life. December 9th, 2004, JD signed. 2 years, $10.5 million, and then they traded Podsednik December 2004. So I believe they planned it.
Probably.
I don't know. All right. Let's get into other stuff. We got through the Paul DeJong stuff. We got through the Andrew Benintendi stuff. Why don't we get into a little bit of Erick Fedde, and then that will lead into some rotation talk along with Brad Keller getting DFA'd. I think the biggest thing with Erick Fedde, and since we're talking about trade value, a lot of people's gut reaction is, oh, Erick Fedde had a bad start. His trade value went down. Again, over 12 starts this year, or 11 starts we've seen from Erick Fedde this year. One of his worst, 6 innings pitched, 5 earned runs, 7 hits, 2 Ks, 1 walk. But, I mean, you kind of expect it with a guy that's going to be around the zone a ton. I mean, you've seen mostly good things from Erick Fedde. This outing doesn't sour me on Fedde at all.
I mean, it shouldn't. The days like this happen. It's once they start stacking up that you'd have to kind of change your outlook. But I mean, this guy, his ERA is still just barely over 3 right now. He's still having a very nice season. He had a bad day, no doubt about it. But I'll say this: managed to stay pretty efficient.
Yeah,
Herb. I mean, how many times did I look up during that game and say, "Oh, he's only at this number of pitches. Oh, he's only at this number of pitches," for giving up a lot of hits and a lot of runs. He managed to stay in there for 6 innings, and I think there are plenty of games you can point to this very season in which a White Sox starting pitcher gave up that number of runs and made it nowhere close to finishing 6 innings. So there are, some silver lining there if you want to talk about the way the bullpen keeps stacking up, because they're still well over a week until they've got another off day. I believe it's a week from this Thursday. So 10 days still before they've got another off day. For Erick Fedde to go out and do that is not a bad thing. Yeah, it wasn't a great start. I'm sure he's not happy with it, but his season is still very much a positive at the moment. Yeah,
and he started the game off with 10 straight pitches and got out of that first inning. He was pretty clean. And then the second inning, that's where you hit the Benintendi. I don't know if it's a misplay. He was just really far off the line at left field, and the ball was in the air for a amount of time that you should have been underneath that ball. But that started off. That was the first hit given up by Fedde, and then it just steamrolled after that. You got to give credit to Dalton Varsho for going down and getting a splitter and crushing it to right center. So you have bad games like this. Sometimes you get touched up, and this was his game where he got touched up a little bit. The Blue Jays haven't been hitting well this whole year, but today they look like the team that they should be, where they're getting hits and hard hits all night long.
Yeah, I'm not excited to see 2 more games from the Blue Jays. We also have the takeover coming up next week, starting on the 27th. The Blue Jays come to town, so you could join us on Memorial Day at 1:10. Diehards, you get 20% off 2 events, so go check that out at allchgo.com/events if you do want to buy your tickets. We are over halfway there to being sold out, so if you haven't bought tickets, make sure you buy soon because they are moving quickly, and we're excited to hang out with you on the 27th. I guess the best part about tomorrow's game is Garrett Crochet's on the bump, and I do have a lot of faith that Garrett Crochet will hopefully be able to slow down the Blue Jays bats. I know that their bat speed is pretty underwhelming, so hopefully Garrett Crochet is able to reach back at 99 and blow it past the Blue Jays hitters. Fedde, again, just not a guy that has blow past you stuff. We didn't really see that today. And, oh well, maybe he'll have a better outing next time. Not super frustrating, but not a good trend so far. We talked about the 39 game stretch that was coming up for the White Sox last Thursday on our off day. Sox are 0-4 to start off that 39 game stretch, and not so good.
And this is supposed to be the easier part of the schedule. These 6 games versus the Blue Jays, as they are under 500, last place in the AL East. But the team is competitive, and I don't see how, like I said in the pregame, I don't see how they struggle as mightily as they have. Because today, and every time I see them last year where they beat the White Sox 6-0, they put bat to ball.
I guess as KPW resident Blue Jay fan is saying, all it took was putting Davis Schneider and Danny Jansen as 1-2 in their order. And I think if I ever saw, just based off of really, name alone, Davis Schneider and Danny Jansen 1-2 at the top of a White Sox lineup, I'd probably have an aneurysm. So,
A good one or a bad one?
Are aneurysms good?
I don't know, because
Danny Jansen drove in 5 runs
I'm about to
today.
say, those two guys would be the best two players on the White Sox lineup.
Also, again, Paul DeJong hit a homer today, so it's like, I mean, he now leads the White Sox for home runs. So it's like, I get it, he drives in 5, but what? I mean,
Danny Jansen almost doubled up his RBI total. I think he came in with 7.
That's not good. Danny Jansen, 4 home runs, now 5, has less homers than Paul DeJong.
He'd be second on the Sox.
Triple short of the cycle today for Danny Jansen.
Hey,
and they both wear the clear glasses with the eye black underneath them. It's kind of disconcerting because it looks like Brett Lowry.
Davis Schneider does?
Both Davis Schneider and Danny Jansen do it. They're like trying to look like Brett Lowry, which is White Sox great.
And a Canadian. Just a heads up, just to keep an eye out. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting series coming up. We'll see how Crochet handles it tomorrow. All right, let's get into some roster moves. Brad Keller has been DFA'd after his start on Saturday, where he allowed 4 home runs to the New York Yankees. We saw Dominic Leone reinstated and back out of the bullpen today for the Chicago White Sox. Leone, not too crazy, nothing really to dive deep into with that, but Keller, what's the gut reaction on how this affects the White Sox rotation?
Mystery, I guess, and I say that just because there was a quote from Pedro Grifol answering that type of question, in which he basically said, "We'll see," but asked about Michael Soroka, who's pitched out of relief once on Saturday and did very, very well in that outing. Basically said that he kind of intimated that they don't really want to do that yet, and that might make sense, right? You're trying to get Michael Soroka back on track. One good appearance might not be definitive that he is back on track. But as for who else it would be, I mean, I don't know. Jared Schuster has been really good out of the bullpen, but maybe that's a if it ain't broke, don't fix it type situation, as he has been really good in long relief, in mostly mop-up duty. There are guys at AAA. I don't think either of the youngsters we saw earlier in the year, be it Nastrini or Cannon, is necessarily thriving down at AAA at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see what they have to do. I believe it is the Friday game against Baltimore, which is the next time they would need a starting pitcher. You got Crochet tomorrow, Clevenger in the final game against Toronto, and then you would imagine it would be Chris Flexen on Thursday to start that 4-game series with the Orioles.
If I'm one of the White Sox contenders, I'm like, hey, I don't need to pitch this rotation. Give me another one. I don't need to go against the Baltimore Orioles. But if we're doing the same thing that they've done this whole year, where having bullpen guys do well, and then once they have done well and established themselves and move into the starting rotation, I think Jared Schuster would be the next one to go. And also, I don't think if you're going against Baltimore, who has a lot of switch hitters, but mostly lefty power, it wouldn't be a bad idea to put Jared Schuster out there to see if they can nullify that offense, as the White Sox only have one lefty in that rotation. It'd be good to put another one in there. And Jared Schuster has done recently he's done really well, and usually when he goes out for multiple innings. So I think he's stretched stuffed enough so he can give you 4 or 5 innings.
I think it's funny too that we see Schuster do so well up at the major league level this year, but he struggles so much when he's at Charlotte. We saw Brian Ramos's
a lot of pitchers do.
Yeah, we saw Brian Ramos's struggles in Birmingham, and then he kind of locked in at the major league level. Zach Remillard is really just a guy at the AAA level, but then apparently when he comes up to the White Sox, he has Superman heroic performances. So it is funny just to see some of these guys kind of lock in. The Cubs guys yesterday, Brendan and Corey, were talking about, the major leagues. It's such a rush. It's such a, oh my God, this is my moment, where you're able to lock in more of those changes. It's kind of like a sink or swim thing. You're either going to lock in those changes that you've been doing, or you're just going to continue to struggle. And it's been interesting to see Schuster thrive.
Well, and the guy, everybody's different in their in a different place on their path too, right? Ramos comes up and maybe gets that just shot of adrenaline and starts performing really well because it's, hey, the excitement of this of being up here for the first time. Maybe someone like Remillard, someone even like Schuster, who had a little bit of big league action last year with Atlanta, says, this is my chance. I got to make it happen. I got to fight for my place in this organization. And maybe they see their future, at stake and say, all right, it's time to put up or shut up. I think we talked about that yesterday in referencing Soroka's really good work on Saturday. He moves to the bullpen and looks like a different pitcher than he has in the starting rotation. Maybe that's the, hey, this is your career on the line moment that he, I don't want to say needed, but gave him the ability to focus in or dial in, like you were saying.
Do you think it's odd that Soroka wasn't the guy that Pedro immediately went to? We heard around Wednesday or Thursday we would get more clarity on who fills that rotation spot. Yesterday, again, we were kind of like, well, this guy goes to the bullpen. We thought maybe less work would allow him to throw harder, throws 80 pitches, and he's still up 1.5 miles. So it's like, I mean, if you say to Michael Soroka, you're going to start, you're going to get 80 pitches, do we see that same jump, or is that just because it's a bullpen? Because now he's in the bullpen.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that they pick somebody for Friday not on a permanent basis, right? Maybe they say, Soroka, you got 80 pitches, go do the best with them, but it is technically a, quote, bullpen day, right? But listen, we saw them make a quick turnaround with when they moved Flex into the bullpen. He only had 2 relief outings before he was back in the rotation. Maybe we do end up seeing the same with Soroka. It's just that kind of the way Pedro phrased it leads me to believe that it's like maybe they want to see a little bit more from him before they move him back there. But, hey, sometimes roster needs dictate that things need to happen, and maybe he goes out there to start a bullpen day.
And so you probably think that they have a 1 and 1A person that they want to pitch on Friday, but they got to be flexible because both Soroka and Schuster are in the bullpen right now, and this Toronto series might dictate them pitching in them.
Yeah, Herb, you're exactly right. I think we saw that a few weeks back where it was like, we don't know who's going to pitch in 4 days, in the next series because we got to go out here. I think it was when they were in Tampa. Coming up, I believe Keller was supposed to start because he had started in St. Louis, so his day was scheduled. But then they threw him in relief, and it was like, all right, I guess it's Chris Flexen time, basically because they might need to use, like you said, Soroka might be called on Wednesday to help them win a ball game or to help save the bullpen, and it might change their plans for Friday.
Yeah. So this is the reason why you get Keller and the reason why you get Clevenger is to eat innings, and if they're not doing the job, you should get DFA'd like Keller did.
Yes, the Brad Keller era lasted a very, very long time, and it doesn't sound like he will be returning to the White Sox. I think Pedro said, we saw him twice. That was enough. Not really a great ringing endorsement there from Pedro on Brad Keller. Okay, the 2 other moves that will not affect the actual White Sox roster, but it will affect the Birmingham roster. Noah Schultz has been promoted to Double-A and will be making his Birmingham Barons first start, I believe, on Saturday if they're continuing him on the schedule that he has been on. And then Jacob Gonzalez has also been promoted to Double-A as well. Gonzalez, last year's first-round pick out of Ole Miss. The Gonzalez one, I think, is less surprising. Do you guys feel that way? That I was not expecting either of them to be called up. I heard the Schultz news first and was very, very excited. Makes sense now the more I've heard of it. But the Gonzalez one, I'm a little less shocked because we heard that he made changes this offseason, and we've seen those changes do very well for Jacob Gonzalez. So a guy that is, around 23, 24, just got out of college, it makes sense that this guy's getting a little bit more of an aggressive promotion, right? Just because he is older and later in his career.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they've got benchmarks that they look for from every individual player when they make these moves. I don't think they're doing it just for the hell of it. Both of those guys have had really good results. And, if Jacob Gonzalez, who was a college player, right, can say, all right, single A, I got you mastered kind of thing, he can move on to the upper levels and be ready to go a little bit quicker. I'm not trying to compare his path to the path that either Andrew Vaughn or Nick Madrigal took, but those are good reference points because they were both highly regarded college hitters. Gonzalez does not have the expectations of either of those two guys at the moment, but he has the same level of experience, right? And so I think to go ahead and see him move a little quickly through the lower levels might make a little bit of sense because what that experience was. Conversely, Schultz didn't have that experience. They drafted him out of high school, and they're like, you're a younger guy. You might have more work to do. Plus, he's run into a lot of physical issues here. I get what you're saying. Like maybe you would expect to see Schultz stay down in the minor league level, master this, build some innings and master the whole kind of every 7 days before it's every 5 days, right? But he's also been very impressive in what he's been able to do. And so maybe they believe him ready for the challenge of facing Double-A hitters. A lot of talent down there at Double-A right now for the White Sox. And that pitching staff is getting crowded. I would not be surprised to see other folks kind of be moved up from off of that pitching staff just because I don't know if you can have a 7-man rotation and make sure everybody is getting their proper work in. So we'll see how that plays out.
You think it might be because of how well the Birmingham squad is doing and the coaching staff is seemingly doing with the Sergio Santos being the new manager? They want most like Project Birmingham a couple years ago, not of that ilk, but they want their better players, even though Noah Schultz, like you said, you're surprised because of his youth, and they want him up in that atmosphere where you get the better coaching, you get the better atmosphere, and maybe you sink or swim. And he has a lot of years there available for Noah Schultz to, either excel or to fall a little bit because he's still a youngster. And the Jacob Gonzalez thing, I couldn't agree with you more. Like he's advanced. When they drafted him, he was a little older, and of course any college player would be. But I think the same thing there. Like you want to challenge these guys. You don't want to keep them at a level that maybe they've mastered, they've done enough, and so they're going to the next level. It's like, hey, there's your reward, and showing all the rest of the players, hey, you do well at these levels, we're going to give you the promotion to the next level. So this is the carrot, and you get some carrot, not all stick.
Yeah, and I think the main thing, at least with Schultz, it's less about the people that he's going to be with, Santos, the players that he's going to be with. I think we were pretty shocked that he was a top 50 Major League prospect this offseason. I think we thought he was going to be a top 100 prospect. I knew people were excited about him, but I don't think we knew the type of hype within Major League Baseball and the prospect rankers where he would have been put. And, I mean, there was some rankings, I think, as high as like 20 for Schultz, ranging to like 60, but pretty consistently top 60, top 50 for Noah Schultz. When a guy in 54 and a third innings pitched, has 80 Ks and 13 walks, an 8.33 whip, and an ERA of 2.65.
That works.
And he's got all the stuff, right? I mean, every single person from Baseball America that's taking videos behind home plate at a Winston-Salem dash start because Noah Schultz is there is just like, this guy's got Major League stuff. I mean, like the fastball slider absolutely plays and has been dominating single A. It's exciting to see what he'll do at Double-A, but I think it's mainly just because it seems like there's going to be open spots in the White Sox rotation, and I know I don't want to get like too ahead of myself, but if Noah Schultz goes and continues to dominate and continues to have a 13.3 strikeout per 9 to a 2.2 walk per 9, and is giving up, not a lot of power. I think he's only given up 4 homers in those 54 innings pitched in minor league baseball. Is this not a guy that is fighting for a White Sox spot in 2025? I understand he's young, but
I would say no because of the lack of experience, and mostly because they're still, and I know they're doing this for health related reasons, but the guy's pitching every 7 days right now. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you can go from a season where you're pitching every 6 or 7 days to Major League you're pitching every 5 days that quickly. I think if you want to call it good news there, is that the White Sox probably will not need him on opening day next year, right? I think they're probably going to be in a position where this is still a project that is going to have some more time that needs to go before they're competitive again. But if you're asking me, is it too ridiculous to assume he could be pitching in the major leagues at some point in 2025? Maybe. I don't think that'd be ridiculous because you're right. A lot of the stuff that you've seen is just overly impressive. He's been able to handle all the challenges on the field. Now it's, can he handle the challenges of the, I don't want to, maybe lifestyle isn't the right word, but the routine, we'll say, of a pitcher, a pro pitcher who's going to be called on to log a lot of innings for a contending major league team.
Yeah, and that Barons rotation is insane. You got Drew Thorpe, who's got a 1.50 ERA so far through 42 innings pitched. He's only allowed 1 home run. Jairo Iriarte, again acquired in that Cease trade along with Thorpe and Samuel Zavala. In his last 2 outings, 13 2/3 innings pitched, 10 hits, 7 earned runs, 2 walks. Get this, 24 Ks.
That works.
Mason Adams has a 9.15 whip, and he's been surprising with a 2.56 ERA.
When you say those things, you mean 0.915.
Yes.
0.9.
Not 9. 1 to 5.
Right. 0.
Like that's a lot.
Correct.
Under 1.
Yeah.
Like that's a walks and hits per innings.
Whip is walks and hits per innings pitched.
Correct.
1 would be you're allowing 1 walk and hit per inning, which is pretty decent.
Correct.
Anything sub is good. So Mason Adams having a .915.
Correct.
Very good.
I'm just making sure the folks out there aren't hearing whip read the same as ERA, in which case that'd be quite the high whip.
That would be.
But very impressive to keep the ERA that low.
Yes. And Kai Busch acquired in that Reynaldo Lopez, Lucas Giolito trade. That also acquired Edgar Caro for the Sox. 38 2/3 innings pitched, 1 home run allowed, 2.09 ERA. There's also Jake Eder. He's been up and down. I know his last outing he had a lot of defensive woes behind him, but 44 strikeouts and 34 and an inning pitched, and he's only given up 1 homer. So there's definitely some interesting parts about Jake Eder's makeup. All right, that has been the minor league hit. Let's get to a guy that apparently should be in the minor leagues. Pedro Grifol made a comment on Dominic Fletcher, not David Fletcher, before today's game from Darryl Van Schouwen. Quote, Gavin is hitting third, and this is on Fletcher's lack of ABs. Gavin is hitting third, Pham is hitting first, and Benny is a consistent pillar in our lineup. Fletch will come in for defense and do some stuff. Dom has to wait for an opportunity and take advantage of it. What do we make of that?
I make that it doesn't sound like they brought Dominic Fletcher back up from the minor leagues to give him major league playing time. It sounds like he's here to be depth, to help fill the roster out. He'll probably, if the game situation calls for it, he can be plugged in as a pinch hitter or a defensive replacement. But the way Pedro laid it out, is not terribly surprising, to be honest. Pham is going to play every day because he's been fantastic. We talked all about how Andrew Benintendi is not going to lose that much playing time because of his contract, and Gavin Sheets is still rating as one of the White Sox better hitters, even if he has cooled from what he was doing at the beginning of the season. And remember, we're not too much longer away from seeing Luis Robert Jr. come back and assume the everyday spot in center field. It just seems like right now, with the way the team is playing, those players specifically are playing, there's not really much room for Dominic Fletcher, and he's here basically to be a bench player if needed. That's surprising if you would have asked this question in even spring training or certainly when they acquired him, because it seemed like when they traded for him, he was going to be their everyday right fielder.
Yeah, that's the part that I just can't get over. You traded a young stud pitcher who hadn't reached the miles per hour on his fastball that you were looking for, as Chris Getz was doing these trades back-to-back days or the same day, where he gets Dominic Fletcher on his team and Zach DeLoach. And I'm like, okay, maybe one of these guys will be the right fielder and just play all the games. They gave Dominic Fletcher 3 weeks maybe, and he's persona non grata. And understandably, like Pham's a better player, so is Lucas Robert. Benintendi's just going to play. Consistent. What do you call it? Consistent pillar? Whew, that's a tough coat, Pedro. But they traded that player away in Christian Mena to get this player in Dominic Fletcher. I was like, okay, that means they have investment into that player. No, they don't. Like, you can't just have this guy be a bench player / AAA player and then have investment in him for the future, because he's 26 or 27 right now. He's not getting any younger.
Or not yet.
Yeah.
I mean, we could be talking about him the same way we were talking about Nastrini and Cannon earlier in the year. Maybe they're just like, all right, once Tommy Pham's traded in July, Dominic Fletcher, come back up and show us what you can do. But again, they traded for him, like you said, to be the right fielder. It's not happening.
And also, he's not doing anything. Right now, he's currently not playing any baseball, which probably isn't good for the 26-year-old.
And Corey Julks is here, too.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And it seems like Julks is getting more opportunities. I mean,
he's already started twice in 4 games.
And he pinched it for Gavin. So there you go. The one thing about Mena, like, you talk about the jump in velocity. Like, we saw that in spring training, but that hasn't stuck in the PCL. But he's a 22-year-old that has a 3.80 ERA in a notably difficult pitching environment.
Correct.
And he's a guy that, with all of the pitching injuries we've heard about and how they're either linked to, high spin rate or high velocity, I think 9 of the top 10 highest average starting pitchers, or starting pitchers with the highest average velocity, 9 of the 10 are hurt, right? So Mena not having that velocity might have been helpful. It's just, you went all in a way. You went in on this player, Dominic Fletcher, and basically gave up on him. Like, that's the part that is frustrating to me, is like, what's it called? Every opportunity. Exhaust every opportunity.
Thank you.
Correct. What are we doing here?
Well, again,
that's the part that's frustrating.
I wouldn't say they're at that point yet. I think what they did is they said, we'd rather try to get something for Tommy Pham than give that opportunity to Fletcher. But you didn't make that decision until the middle of April.
Thank you.
Like Dominic Fletcher was you gave him the opportunity, and then you pulled it away from him with the idea that maybe Tommy Pham will net us another prospect. And that might end up proving what's best for in the long term for the franchise. But I would imagine you went into the season with the idea of Dominic Fletcher having a chance to prove himself at the major league level. I don't believe he's gotten that full chance yet. He might get it by the end of the year if he plays the last 3 months of the season, but I think you were expecting him to play a full 6.
And this might be part of the learning on the job for Chris Getz, because I don't see a plan there. If you trade for Dominic Fletcher, that is your right fielder. Like, with the young player that you traded away, that has to be your right fielder. And you have to give him, like you said, exhaust all avenues with Dominic Fletcher. Let him play for at least until July and say, man, he cannot play. Or, yeah, I see something in there. But as your point is, he's not playing right now. So either sit him down to AAA or play him at major leagues. Don't just have him in between and not playing baseball, because you're not getting better at baseball by sitting on the bench.
And Fletcher is closer to Benintendi's age than he is Mena's age. And I think that's the biggest flag, too. It's just like you're not even trading a guy with a ton of potential or a ton of growth here. I mean, he's 5'6". It's not like he's going to bulk up. I don't know. It's just a bad trade. Anyways, let's go into this quote from Bob Melvin from 2004. That trade happened December 13th. So they signed JD on December 9th, 2004. They traded Podsednik on December 13th. So this was after the JD move. Who was the Brewers general manager that Kenny Williams traded with?
In 2004?
You're not guessing this. He is currently active as a manager.
No, you've got him screwed up.
I'm okay.
I think.
You already know? Go ahead.
I don't know.
Are you thinking of Doug Melvin?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you've got your Melvins mixed up, I think.
It says Brewers general manager Bob Melvin.
I believe those are two different Melvins.
Okay, well, someone named Melvin said,
I could be wrong.
Carlos Lee fills our biggest offensive need. He is the perfect fit with Jeff Jenkins and Lyle Overbay in the middle of our order. We knew that we needed to give up 2 good players to make this transaction happen. So I just wanted to read that quote that had Jeff Jenkins and Lyle Overbay's names in there. All right, hit that thumbs up button. We got one final game to end on. Are you Canadian is it Canadian or no? We have 5 people that Herb and Vinny will have to guess. Are they Canadian or no? All right, we're going to first start off with Kirk McCaskill, former White Sox.
Yes, he's a Canuck.
You think so?
I believe he's a Canuck.
Vinny?
Yeah, I'm going to say yes because I'm not 100% sure who this is.
Okay, all right. Well, Kirk McCaskill is a former White Sox and a former Canadian. Not only did Kirk McCaskill pay for the Angels and White Sox, he also played in the American Hockey League for the Sherbrooke Jets.
How about that?
So, yeah, he's very Canadian. As Canadian as they get.
Good athlete.
Very good athlete. All right, next one up. Abraham Toro, former Astro, also I believe current Oakland A, as you can see there. Canadian or no?
Just off the name, you would say no, but I'm going to say yes. He is a Canuck.
I'll say no.
Herb's correct.
All right, Herb wins.
Try to throw you with a loop. He is from Canada, from Quebec. Abraham Toro. Yes. I would not even try to pronounce where he went to high school. I can't even say it. Paulavetien Eduardo Montpetit High School in Montreal. We know KPW.
You're gonna have to close that chat.
KPW's like,
you're gonna give him away. KPW knows all the answers.
We got Kirk McCaskill down. We got Abraham Toro down. Cavan Smith, former White Sox.
No. Cavan Smith is not a Canadian.
He's like Californian. Or North Carolina.
Yeah, you guys are too good at this. Cavan Smith is not a Canadian. No, he's from Pittsburgh.
Oh. Actually, Sean, yes, there is an A in Cavan Smith.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yes, A for Cavan Smith. Funny enough, too, he is a Pittsburgh Pirate, and after the 2008 season where he played for the Pittsburgh Panthers football team, Coach Dave Wannstedt and offensive coordinator Matt Cavanaugh approached Kevin Smith about changing his position. So I didn't know Dave Wannstedt knew Kevan Smith. They should ask him about that on the score.
They should.
All right. Next up, Jamie Burke, another former catcher and a former White Sox. Is Jamie Burke Canadian?
He is, I'll say no, but if we're going back to that trade, he's one of the reasons why Carlos Lee got traded to the Milwaukee Brewers, because he got ran over by Torrey Hunter, and then the day after that, Carlos Lee refused to slide hard into second base to get a little revenge, and so that was the impetus to get that guy out of here, type of thing. I don't think he's Canadian.
I'll agree. No Canadian for Jamie Burke.
Correct. No Canadian for Jamie Burke. He's from Oregon, so close.
Same thing.
No cigar. Final one. Final Canadian. Kiefer Sutherland. Is he Canadian? Yes or no?
Ooh, I say yes. I say he is Canadian. Is son of Donald Sutherland. I believe so. Yes.
I'll say no.
I did not know Kiefer Sutherland was the son of Donald Sutherland.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense with the last name.
Nepotism.
Sutherland. Nepotism. I mean, but Kiefer's pretty good. Kiefer's pretty good, and he's Canadian.
He's probably a famous Canadian, too, and I just didn't know.
I literally Googled famous Canadians, and I was like,
how high was Kirk McCaskill on that list?
Oh, Kirk. Well, no, I Googled baseball Canadians for that one. But yeah, no, Kiefer's about ninth. Behind Drake, Celine Dion, Justin Bieber, the expected.
Neil Young.
Neil Young.
Michael
as
J.
well.
Fox.
And did Sean
Dan Aykroyd.
Mike Reno.
Dan Aykroyd's Canadian?
Oh, yeah. Big time Canadian. Martin Short.
Would have fooled me. Well, yeah, I knew Martin Short.
I'm Canadian.
Were you born there?
No, but my grandma was, so I'm part Canadian.
Okay. So you're what they call American.
As the kids call them, yes.
I have it in me, though.
I am Irish. My grandma is from Ireland as well. Anyways, that's going to do it for the CHGO White Sox podcast. Herb, I think you went 5 for 5.
I'm that good.
I think you even got Abraham Toro right.
My fiance is Canadian. She's actually Canadian, not like
from
Sarah.
Canada.
No, not from Canada. Her dad was born in Canada, so she has half citizenship.
She's American.
She has both. She has both citizenship in America and Canada.
Very nice. All right. That is Vinnie Duber. You can follow him at Vinnie Duber. He's our CHGO White Sox beat writer. That's Herb Lawrence. His fiance is half Canadian. You can follow him at Ecknerwall23. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. To answer Melissa's question, I didn't take French in high school, but I took it in first grade. So I have a...
You know alouette. You know the words to alouette.
Alouette, gentil, alouette, alouette, gentil, plumerie.
These guys know more than me. Un petit français.
Small.
French.
A small French.
You can follow me at Sean_W_Anderson. Hit that thumbs up button. Hit that subscribe button. We'll be back tomorrow for more White Sox baseball. Goodbye.
We all silly like the mayor.